Hey everyone, on today's show, we have dating specialist Grace Lee, who's the founder of A Good First Date based in New York City. Many will relate to Grace and her down to earth, effortless, yet efficient dating approach and strategies. Her company's mantra is dating is ultimately about human connection, and relationships form in all forms, whether you just end up meeting a new friend, meet the person who will connect you to your future ex, or are lucky enough to be greeted by your spouse to be. It all starts with a good first date. In my conversation with Grace, you'll hear how she landed in New York, what got her into the dating business, best tips for good first dates and takeaways, plus how to approach Valentine's Day in the city. I hope you enjoy this episode. Sending love your way always. Here's my interview with Grace. Hi, Grace. How are you?
Hi, great. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, I'm so happy to have you on here and talk all things dating, something that a lot of people want to know about. Before we actually dive into that, I would love to start with your New York story. Are you originally from New York?
I'm not, but I've been here for 10 years, so I think I've passed the New York native test,
Yep.
hopefully.
Hmm.
I'm actually originally from Michigan. My parents are Korean,
Okay.
and I was born there, grew up there, and then lived in Atlanta for college, and then spent the rest of my career overseas. So I worked in banking. I lived
Wow.
in England and Hong Kong and Shanghai, and then moved here, as I said, 10 years ago.
Okay. And what has the experience been like ever since moving to New York? Like, why New York?
I think New York because I was jealous of a friend who moved to New York. I was like
Hmm.
so overcome with jealousy that I had to come here. Um, yeah, no, for sure. I love New York City. I love everything about it. I love working here. I love, just being able to meet all kinds of people. And I've got kids, and I think it's been like sort of, oh, is raising kids in the city good or not? Maybe not for everybody, but I'm so happy
Okay.
that my kids are city kids. So, yeah,
Oh.
I would, chain myself to a fence and never leave. I love living here.
Aw, that's awesome. That's great to hear. More specifically, what are some things you like and dislike about New York?
I think actually this comes into being single, which is there's just so many different kinds of people. And
Okay.
so, it's really easy to get out of your sort of circle and to meet people that are completely different from you.
Mhm.
It's a city where you can pursue pretty much any lifestyle you want and find good company.
Mhm.
And yeah, just there's so many opportunities to learn and connect across what might not normally happen in a life in a different kind of a place.
Right. If you're stuck in a car somewhere else and not surrounded by so many people and, places, I completely hear you on that aspect. And in that regards, in dating, you just mentioned that subject. How did you get into creating a good first date? Where did the inspiration behind that come?
It's a long story, and I'll just give you the
Mhm.
fast condensed version. So
Uh-huh.
as I mentioned, I was in finance, and like a
Mhm.
lot of people that used to be in finance, very glad not to be there anymore.
Mhm.
I was married, I had 2 kids, and I was living in Shanghai.
Mhm.
And my marriage ended in 2008, 2009, and it wasn't like a dramatic divorce story. It was actually a really nice
Mhm.
divorce story, but it was still a divorce.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I moved to New York City and just threw myself into dating. I was
Mhm.
on Match.com, which was, I mean, this is before Tinder, I think. So I dated like
Okay.
a crazy person. I'd really never been single before.
Okay.
And I somehow put my name on a list for a matchmaker, and then years later they contacted me, interviewing
Wow.
me to become a match for one of their clients. And
Mhm.
the interview was so fun. It was like,
Mhm.
talk about yourself in dating for an hour, and like, you like
Okay.
place your seamless order basically. And I just said to the matchmaker, I asked, is this a real job? And how can I
Yeah.
work? How can I do this as a living, for a living, like run around the city and
Mhm.
talk to people? And so what I got to experience is, in that process is I met with hundreds of single people. I would really run
Mhm.
around the city and meet with single people and talk to them about what was happening in dating. And I guess in my approximation, it was what I came across first is I loved hearing people's stories, but also that
Mhm.
meeting the right person is just a very small part of being in a relationship that you want to be in. And it
Right.
was like
Mhm.
that inflection point that I really wanted to focus on. And so, fast forward to about a year ago, I founded a good first date with
Oh,
this
wow.
question in mind about how to help
Mhm.
people figure out what is happening. It's like, what is going on? And then
Yeah.
to raise awareness and move people to their goals in terms of relationships and more importantly, their own mindset.
Okay, I love that. So, a good first date is it's fairly new. It's about a year, maybe 2 years old, and you have experience in matchmaking. That's how it came all about, having the passion in it. What would you say is the idea behind a good first date?
It's a funny thing. So the story is, so I was dating, and
Okay.
my friend said to me, and I'll never forget it. Obviously, I'll never forget it. But she said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, just I don't know, just don't worry about it. It'll just take a good first date to bring you back."
Mm,
And she's
mhm.
so right. You just go on one good first date, and suddenly the world of possibility opens again.
Mhm.
I think,
100%.
yeah, I think a part of it is also just leveling, like treating single people like they're not idiots. It's like a
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
these dating companies and dating sites and dating books is like, find the relationship you want, be that person on the on the beach holding hands or whatever.
Mhm.
And those are like, relationships are beautiful things. I'm not anti-relationship in any shape or form, but it's
Right.
like, hey, let's just start with a good first date and see what happens. Like,
Right.
let's be
Okay.
real about this. Yeah, it has to start. We have to start small and see where it goes instead of approaching this whole relationship thing with the wedding dress in mind.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that you pointed that out. You yourself are single right now, and you've gone through a couple of dates, I'm sure. How have you found these dates, in New York City specifically, and how has that been for you? Can you give us a little rundown on that, please?
On being a single person in New York City, oh my god. I'm somebody that has really, come to dating with an open mind, and I've
Mhm.
met a lot of people, I've gone on a lot of dates, and I've learned, I mean, there really isn't anything I haven't seen, let's just put it that way.
What are you seeing? I mean, tell our listeners what is it you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, oh geez, just like dating, showing up on a date where the person looks
Mhm.
nothing like their pictures. I once went on a date with someone who um, knew the inner workings of 9/11 and why it
Mm.
was an inside
Wow,
job.
that's a big,
Uh,
topic.
so either he's lying or he's deadly serious. Yeah, I mean, just being approached for things that I wasn't really thinking were part of the agenda when I
Mm.
was text messaging somebody. But I think that by and large, we talk a lot today about alienation and social media
Mhm.
and how people are growing apart. But online dating is the only technology out there that's designed to bring us together in person. And as much as I can rail on dating. I don't, because it's brought so much to my life. And
Mhm.
it's funny, the other day, my daughter was babysitting
Mhm.
a little boy in my apartment, and that little boy happened to be
Yeah.
my ex boyfriend's son. And I met him on Match
Wow.
8 years ago. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so all of these dates have really led me to different things, have opened me up to different types of people and a lot of new
Mhm.
friendships. So I would say I'm still pro dating, I'm still pro online dating, but I do think that
Mhm.
you have to approach it in a particular way to get out of
Okay.
it what one
You want
can. Yeah.
well, yeah, well, how 2 people can benefit from it in a sense, but and we'll get to that, how to approach it. I wanna just dive a little bit more specific on, you were, mentioning, you know, again, that you've been on these kinda horrendous dates in a sense.
Mhm.
Where have you been meeting them? Has it been all online? Is some in person? Like, what essentially is a way that someone can meet someone in New York City?
I think that 100% of the people that I meet without exception,
Mhm.
would rather meet in person. And yet very few people
Okay.
are, and that might be, societal changes, iPhones, AirPods, all that
Mhm.
stuff, right? And having kids a lot of times means I can't go to bars or I can't go to the singles things. So online dating has been the way that I meet men, and it's really worked for
Okay.
me. When I'm working with
Mhm.
clients, I I'm not a big fan of singles events, to be honest, but I think when you're at a place that you love and you're having a great time, it's an automatic filter. So, an example, I happen to love hip hop music festivals. And so
Ooh, okay.
any person that
I
I
like
would meet at a festival, we have something in
Mhm.
common. Like, we both bought a
Right.
ticket, we both had to drag ourselves to wherever place, and
Mhm.
be in that environment. And so even if the person that I meet isn't single, like, they might have a single
Mhm.
friend, it might end up
Mhm.
being the brother of the aunt of the, it's like, you just
Right.
don't know where these connections are gonna go. But
Of
when you're in
course.
your element, you're showing up as your best self, and the person that you're with automatically has so much in common with you. And so I
Yeah.
think in order to meet someone in real life, you have to have your eyes and ears available.
Mhm.
You have to be social and open and curious about other people. And really,
Mhm.
I don't think it's much more complicated than that.
I like that. Okay. And then do you mind my asking how has it been being a mom and date in the dating scene? I have friends who also have children. Like what has that experience been?
It's twofold. I think let's
Mhm.
start with the pluses. You've had kids. I've had kids.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm not under any kind of time pressure in that regard. And
Right.
so it allows me specifically to approach dating in a much more open way. I have less time. Um,
Mhm.
and so especially if I'm dating another single dad, oh my God, that's like the logistics alone can crush
Yeah.
it. So that's,
Yeah.
that's a little tricky. I think that being a single parent makes you more cautious about getting
Mhm.
serious with somebody, about letting someone
Mhm.
into your life. It's a different set of standards. If you're looking for somebody that will vibe with your kids, it's different.
Mhm.
There are a lot of
Mhm.
questions that are really hard to answer. And like, when should I introduce this guy to my kids?
Yeah.
Is it too early? Is it too late? Yeah, so I think it just puts a different cadence on it, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily harder or easier.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. And with that being said, has been your biggest lesson you've learned about dating and love so far, given, starting the matchmaking career and then creating your own business and dating?
Lessons learned, there are a lot of lessons,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
the one that has spoken to me most recently, and my
Mhm.
experience is kind of coalescing around this lesson,
Mhm.
is to slow down and to listen to what's happening. And
Mhm.
there was a quote that I read the other day that really made me stop and think, and it's a quote by Emerson, and it says, "What you do speaks so loud that I cannot hear what you say." So many times wanting the relationship, wanting just to get this done,
Mhm.
has meant that I go into a good first date. It's a great first date. Man, I really like this guy. I really want it to work out. I just want to get this shit done. Like,
Mhm.
I've been dating for so long, and so I press it and I
Yeah.
press it and I want it to happen. I
Yeah.
want it to fit into a box. I want to call it my boyfriend. I want to post
Yep.
it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and then what ends up happening is that a lot of times it's like, I don't actually know this person because I haven't given it enough time to figure out if this person is right.
Mhm.
And so many people in matchmaking, what I do, it's like, what kind of
Mhm.
person do you want to meet? And it's always the same: someone who's kind, someone who's patient, someone who's honest and loyal and
Okay.
funny and
Mhm.
ambitious. And, the list goes on and on. But
Mhm.
how do you find those things out? You need to have time.
Yeah.
You need to have time to see how they're showing up,
Mhm.
how they're reacting in different life situations. And it's so easy to sit there in your bed at 11:30 and say, "Oh my God, I like you so much. You're so interesting." Have a long conversation. it's way harder to get to move yourself, to make that restaurant reservation, to block time out of your calendar, to show up,
Mm-hmm.
to follow up with a text message if there's a problem, to be there to help. Like all that stuff is, actions.
Mm-hmm.
Actions speak so much louder than words, but in order to have actions, you have to give it time,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be okay with the ambiguity of not knowing if this person is the right person.
Okay.
Because, the other real lesson is that dating is not a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Dating is about human connection.
Yeah.
It's about learning about the other person, how they're making you feel, what you're bringing to it, learning about your values and alignment,
Mm-hmm.
because you really can't want the relationship more than you want the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a person that you're going to be spending a lot of time with,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of time
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And so, what better opportunity for us all is there than to use dating and time to really learn about what this connection means?
Mm-hmm. So then that's great. What can one do to have that first great date and find out as much as possible about these criterias you mentioned? I know that's essentially not possible on a first date, but just to
Mm.
kind of get it warmed up.
The good first date is really the objective of a good first date is to see if there's enough there for a second date.
Hmm.
And that's it.
Hmm.
This is not about finding the love of your life on a good first date.
Hmm.
Because to my point, you can't really get to know somebody over a coffee.
Hmm.
One of the funniest things is, oh, over coffee, I just don't think that he's husband material, like after a first date, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa. But, in the context of online dating, which is where I feel really comfortable talking about,
Hmm.
online dating is a funny thing. There's nothing else. There's nothing else like it in terms of how you present yourself. It's not like LinkedIn or Facebook, right? So
Hmm.
online dating starts with a profile that really speaks to who you are and speaks to who you want to speak to,
Hmm.
sort of, let's call it your target audience.
Right.
So it really does, like, the profile is super important. The text is actually really important. The pictures are really important.
Right.
And so a good first date starts with a really great profile.
Okay.
And then after that, it's about swiping and swiping on the right types of people.
Hmm.
It's about texting and using texting efficiently but
Hmm.
effectively so that you're really identifying someone who's going to take action,
Hmm.
because it takes two to get on the first date.
Right.
And then the first date is, a lot of people go in looking for that red flag. And I tell every client, I say, just go in looking for that green light. Like, your job is to make that person feel so comfortable that they can show up as themselves,
Hmm.
because you don't want to miss any. You don't want to miss somebody just because they're nervous or because, they're trying to impress you or, whatever it is. Like, really help that person show up. And if you see something there, then that's going to be enough for you to go on a second date. That first date should probably be about 45 minutes.
Okay. You don't recommend longer or shorter?
No, because, well, shorter is kind of hard to pull off,
Hmm.
but longer. So, the worst case scenario for somebody looking for a relationship is to have that beautiful first date that turns into a sleepover,
Mm.
and the next day is beautiful, and then you never hear from that person again.
Right. Right.
And, for a certain type of person, having a sleepover means giving a lot of yourself to somebody who has no intention of seeing you again.
Okay.
So we're talking about actions versus words.
Okay. I like that.
So if you want someone who's going to show up and be consistent and an important part of your life, then you have to pace what you're giving to that person to be in step with how much time you spent together and how much, I mean, I don't want to say like how much they've proven to you,
Mhm, mhm.
but how much they've proven to you. Are they entitled to more of you? And so that's why it's like the good first date really isn't, I have a blog about this. The good first date really isn't a date.
Mhm,
It's really like, hey, is there enough here? And then, like, getting ready for a second date is so fun
mhm.
because this person is great. And it really just goes from there. But
So then is the first date transactional then, in a sense?
I mean, what do you mean by transactional in this
Like
context?
it's, getting to meet someone and kind of hitting all these points and feelings
Mm,
to make sure, all right, then let's move on to a second date on both ends.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's kinda like if you meet someone at a bar,
Mhm.
but it's not planned,
Mhm.
and you kinda just talk and see if you have fun. I mean, for me specifically, it's like, how do I feel? If I spilled something on myself, would it have been like the end of the world?
Yeah.
Or would it have been okay? My
Yeah.
values in particular are, an ability to have a conversation about, say, music. Like, that's really important to me.
Mhm.
Another thing is, did the person confirm? Did they show up relatively on time?
Mhm.
Were they amenable to picking something in my neighborhood? So
Mhm.
those are important things to me. I wanna find out if that's there, and then when we're talking, I'm not I never ask about past relationships. I don't care at this point. Like, what
Right.
happened between that person and at that time is between them. I don't care. What I care about is how they're making me feel and how
Okay.
I'm showing up. Like,
Mhm.
again, like, do I feel comfortable and happy? And that's enough for a second date.
I mean, but you shouldn't even bring up past relationships on a first date. Am I correct? Wrong? I mean, I haven't been in the dating scene. I'm married in a long time, but it's like maybe, yeah, I just got out of a 5-year relationship, or I was, recently divorced. So that, yes, like obviously they need to know that, but they may already know that prior to sitting there with you. So no need to kind of dive deeper into those stories. Correct?
I agree 100%. And you would be shocked at how many people just go there.
Really?
And sometimes people are, ask, "Oh, why are you still single?" Which is so
Yeah.
awkward because both of you are single. What's the right answer to that? What's
Don't
the right
talk about your
answer to
past
that?
relationships.
And, like, what is the upside? Okay, consider two answers to your past relationships. The first
Mhm.
one, "Oh, it was terrible, this person was really abusive, and it was a traumatic experience." Okay, then
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh my gosh, this person is damaged, and I feel sorry for them."
Yeah.
The second one
Mhm.
was, "Oh, he was amazing. He was so great. Like, we had this incredible loving relationship, but it just didn't work out."
Mhm.
Now suddenly you're thinking, "Oh my god, it's like, am I ever gonna measure up to this person?" It's like
Right.
the way that
Yeah.
are you honest? I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm honest, but when I was in this situation, I lied a little bit.
Mm.
Like
What do you mean?
people are as honest as they are in their relationships, right? So, like, I'm looking
Mhm.
for someone who's really honest, and then he said that in this past relationship, he lied.
Oh.
So then
Mm.
you're like, "Oh, well, he's probably a liar."
Yeah. Of course.
But
Red flag.
he was being honest with you that he lied, and,
That's
like,
true.
you don't know what that person brought out in him.
Mm.
So
That's
it's only to say, like, you need context. Like, we need context in order to
Mhm.
understand people's deep history, and so instead on a first date, like, let's just keep it light. Like, let's keep it light,
Mm.
talk about cocktails, talk about sports, talk about how much we hate the subway. Like, let's just talk about these light things and then see
Yeah.
if there's a vibe. And then, we can get if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Like, it's not there is no, like, expiration date, like, time, like, you don't have to rush it.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think that's the thing. It's like, again, coming back to actions, coming back to time, coming back to ambiguity. Like, it's so hard for us to sit in this space where we don't know what it is.
Mhm.
But you
Mhm.
kind of have to
100.
be okay with that.
Yeah.
At least in the
Yeah.
short term, you have to be okay with that in order for these things to develop and reveal themselves.
I feel like some people show up with wanting to present different versions of themselves for a first date versus being their actual self. Is that something you come across? Or am I just assuming?
It's really hard to show up as yourself a lot of times. There's a lot of pressure on these dates because they're hard to line up. It's hard to find somebody to be excited about. It's hard to go in
Mhm.
not being suspicious. Like, "Hey,
Mhm.
this was too easy to set up. What's wrong with this
Yeah.
person?" So,
Okay.
and authentic self is sometimes a hard thing to explain, and So I
Mm.
think really, but yeah, definitely like go into the date. I think actually when you go into a date just wanting it to be about the other person, it really
Mhm.
helps. Like
Mhm.
go in as a friendly investigative journalist
Mhm. Mhm.
and learn about that. Just be curious about the other person, because the feeling's mutual. Like if you show up with a clipboard, waiting for someone to say something wrong, it's going to be really hard for the two of you to have a great conversation. But if you
Yes.
go in, I just like really want to know. I mean, the funniest thing, I went on a date the other day with someone,
Mhm.
and it wasn't really a connection, but talking about his
Mhm.
story, and he did like preservation work for disaster relief, like for big
Mm.
monuments. Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry, this is an aside, but he worked on like there was like this nuclear facility that he had to do something with and like to do some
Wow.
consulting around. He had to take an
Mhm.
elevator a mile down into the earth
What?
to um to do this disaster management. I was like, a mile? I didn't even know that was possible. Hey, that was
Wow.
what I got out of the date, was just that story.
Oh
But
my god.
that seemed
Really?
interesting, and so we had this great conversation around that, like, what was that like, whatever. So the point being, like, it's not about again, it's not about getting what you want out of it, it's about, like, human connection and, like, learning someone else's story, and once you can really, like, get out of your own head and learn about
Mhm.
someone else, it's a lot easier to just be yourself.
Yep. Yep, 100% agree with that. Now, if you had to describe the dating scene out there today, specifically in New York, like, how would you say it's like?
I think for most people, it's pretty tough, and nobody seems to be 100%. No one even seems to be that happy with it. People complain
Mm.
that it's really transactional, that everyone has too many options,
Mhm.
that nobody wants to commit. It's just like I can't meet the right person or I'm doing something wrong. I can't get a date. There's like a lot of that. I guess maybe that's by virtue of the fact that I'm a dating coach,
Yeah.
but I think it's tough and it's easy. It's tough because there are a lot of people, and it's easy because there are a lot of people.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
And
oh, go ahead.
go no, no, you please.
Oh, yeah, no. So it's really about having an approach that works for you so that you feel in control of what's happening. And you may
Mhm.
not like the outcomes per se, but at least you know what's going on. You don't feel helpless or
Mhm.
sort of it's not a mystery. The dating process isn't mysterious.
Mhm. And so what are the good like the things that are going right in maybe some of the people you've helped, the stories of these successful dating, first dates and so on, relationships. What are they doing that is, you know, helping them find love?
The first thing that people are learning is about communicating, and that's
Mm,
specifically through online dating and texting.
mm,
So it's
mhm,
learning to get out of the text vortex and onto an actual date.
mhm,
The second thing is showing up on the dates and seeing what happens. Going in
mhm,
with this mindset of being open and also knowing how to run the date so that you're not there forever.
mm,
Um, the post date evaluation, it's like, well, how did it go? Do I want to see this person again? We're
mhm,
finding ways to discuss that so that even if the date didn't go well, the
mhm.
client is learning something from the experience.
Right.
And so it might be, I wasn't able to pivot out of this bad discussion, this bad conversation. So how do I do that? Um, or I noticed this thing and it reminds me of this other thing. So we
Mhm,
can explore that. And the idea behind working with me is to have an unbiased, objective friend
mhm,
that will help you to navigate dating. And I don't come to this with an agenda. I have zero agenda. If someone wants to go on 100 dates, let's do it. If someone wants to
mhm,
find their husband, okay, let's try.
mhm,
My journey has shown me that they're not mistakes. Sometimes you have to go down a certain road to find out a certain thing, and that's okay.
mhm. And you, said online dating is something you're comfortable with, and I'm sure there's apps you've been using. What are the apps, your go-to apps, specifically for New York? that are working for you, that are not working? Can you mention a few?
The funny thing is that different profiles perform differently on different apps, and I don't
Hmm.
really have an explanation for that. But there are
Okay.
there are two forms of apps broadly. So there's
Okay.
the traditional Match.com,
Mhm.
OkCupid, Jaded.
Mhm.
It's a kind of like a long form app where you can really write a
Mhm.
lot.
Mhm.
And when I spoke to the people at Match, we talked about demographics. And so, like, the sort of 35, 40 plus population on
Mhm.
those apps tends to be greater. So for my clients that are, in that bracket, we will
Mhm.
probably put a profile up there. The
Mhm.
other
Okay.
apps, I would call them swiping apps. So they're short
Yeah.
form, Tinder being the, what do we call it? The gorilla or the elephant? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah,
What is
the
Tinder?
one the big guy in the room, okay? So Tinder by far and away
Mhm.
has the most people.
Okay.
And I actually, I mean, it's been typecast as a hookup app. I love Tinder.
Mm.
I think that it's great. I think that its
Mhm.
format is really efficient. And so in
Okay.
those apps, it's like you put a little blurb, you put pictures, and you swipe. And
Okay.
Bumble is very similar. Bumble allows the women to text first. It puts a little bit of a um, time pressure on things to happen. So there's a 24-hour window where you can text back, so that people like that too.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
the newer player, the two newer ones
Mhm.
are Coffee Meets Bagel, which has,
Mhm.
different features. It allows you to kind of limit the number of matches you get. So people actually like that limit. And
Okay.
then the one that I really enjoy getting people on is Hinge, and Hinge was
Mm.
recently acquired by Match Group, so I think since
Mm.
then they've been able to really like hit the gas in terms of what they
Mhm.
offer. So a lot of
And
the
is
apps will
Mhm.
like open with your age and what you
Mhm.
look like. And Hinge presents the profiles in a different way. So instead of it being like a horizontal, like left, right, it's a scroll. And so it
Mhm.
starts with a profile and then it goes to like an answer to a question. And
Okay.
they were one of the first ones to present the profile as an answer to a question. So it was like, my simple pleasures are, my best travel story is, because
Mhm.
like really writing about yourself is hard. And
Mhm.
so then, they have the questions and the answers. And then when you scroll down a couple of times, you see like your age and whatever, if you drink, like whatever, they have these different things.
Mhm.
So what it's pushing people to do is to just give these profiles a chance.
Mhm.
And then when you have a conversation, you have to like something specifically. So it's like kind of springboarding the conversation a little bit and
Mhm.
asking the user to just like take a second and read what they have to say. So that's
Mm.
been really great. But again, like sometimes profiles that don't do well there do awesome on Tinder. So
Okay.
there is no like 100%. People are like, oh, the best quality people are here. No, they're not.
Mm. Okay.
They're not. Like everyone is on every app. So it really is, how are you using the app?
And then is there so you said that every app you have a different profile in every app, because I'm sure they all have different formats, but does that include you having different photos within every app and then one of them performing higher versus another, or is it consistent across the board through all these apps for you and your clients?
When we're working with clients, we create an app template, so to
Mhm.
speak. So they will give us pictures, we'll recommend pictures. We
Mhm.
use a site called Photo Feeler to rate pictures.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
so the photography is a really big deal, and we also
Okay.
have a photographer on our team. For that
Great.
first picture, it's really important.
Mhm.
So the pictures and the order of the pictures is pretty much fixed.
Mm.
And the
Is
text,
there a specific way to, present yourself in a photo?
yeah, for sure. I mean, there's like basic stuff. It really has to look like you.
Mhm.
One of my colleagues says we need to be able to pick you out in a lineup.
Mhm. Okay.
So it has to be clear. The first picture ideally has no sunglasses, no hat, no one
Mhm.
else in it, full body, or at least, can see your face. So that's
Mhm.
important. And then the other pictures backgrounds are super important. You know, you're telling a story, even if it's not explicitly, you're telling the viewer, what is my life like and what would it be like to date me?
Mhm.
And so if your picture is like in the car, in the bathroom, in the subway, like that doesn't look like that much fun.
Mm.
You know, it might
Okay.
appeal to somebody, I don't know, but that's like,
Yeah.
and then there's variety. There's sort of an aesthetic, so it's like inside, outside, with people, not with people, cultural,
Mhm.
athletic. Like I try to have a good contrast too. And then
Mhm.
I like the last picture to be sort of funny or maybe a little bit more artsy or, you know, a little bit more like a lighter picture. But
Okay.
the text goes with the pictures, or the text
Mhm.
adds to the pictures what the pictures can't say.
Mhm.
And so together it's a package. And a really great profile is one that the client loves.
Mhm.
Like I almost don't care what the users think. I mean, I do a little bit, but
Yeah.
the
Of course.
client has to feel really great about the profile. Having said
Right.
that, this is a dynamic process. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what people are thinking. So,
Mhm.
if the profile isn't performing, then let's change it and experiment.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we do that. You know, it's we have to be responsive, and we have to come to online dating with the sense of like, okay, I don't know. So let's find out and let's be open. And for that reason, it's really important to use it. Like I think Tinder had written something about utilization. Like we reward engagement, and so it's important for the client to be engaged, and we can't get feedback unless they're engaged and we're monitoring it.
Okay. Now, me not really knowing the landscapes of apps, the inside of them, does the profile show your full name? And I'm only asking this in the sense because, you're talking about creating online dating profiles, and there's a lot of information that goes into these, and I'm assuming the more you put into it, the more likely you're gonna have like conversation starters with people and connect. But on the whole name part is like it's almost like your social media profile. You kind of have yourself out there in the world and post every day and show photos, and it's almost like an online dating app. How does that correlate with online dating, like social media and sliding into DMs and stuff like that? Is that something that ever happens in the online dating world?
Insofar as full names and privacy,
Hmm.
you can set that however you want. So some people put their full
Hmm.
names and they're where they work and where they went to school, so you can Google them in a second. Other
Hmm.
people don't. In
Hmm.
terms of social media, I know that Facebook has a dating app now built within it, and a lot of people
Hmm.
meet other people on Instagram. I mean,
Yeah.
but one of the concepts that Michelle McSweeney, she's the language specialist on my team, she talks a lot
Okay.
about grounding and warranting, and there's pretty similar topics. So, what it means is to establish trust, and to establish trust that the other person is real, that their pictures are
Hmm.
real, that they're being honest. And
Hmm.
one way that we do
Hmm.
that, and the apps have this option of linking your Instagram to your dating app.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
always encourage people to do that, because what it does is says to the user on the other side, I've selected 6 pictures to represent myself, but here are a bunch of other pictures that either are of me or of things that I
Hmm.
find interesting. And
Hmm.
by doing that, you're just creating a fuller, profile.
Right. No, 100%. It could either be an advantage or disadvantage in a sense, but I mean, the end of the day, if you go on a first date and you start moving forward, all that will come into play anyhow. I want to play a little game, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a true or false game. Questions about New
Mhm.
York dating, and you can either agree or disagree with them. These are things I found online that kept, being reoccurring themes. And okay, so let me know what your thoughts are. The first question being, New York is a men's market. It's a market with the highest fraction of women to men. So again, super competitive.
That's a true statement in terms of like demographics and statistics. There is a book I love called Datanomics that actually
Mhm.
charts that out. But
Okay.
look, you're never going to be, I mean, competitive. Like, this is not a competition. And so you're never going to be the best
Mhm.
looking and you're never going to be the wealthiest or most
Mhm.
successful. You know, it just like, it isn't possible. And
Mhm.
that type of, love, finding love is incredibly democratic. Like, even the most beautiful Hollywood stars, whatever, haven't found love, right? So if they can't, like, you know,
Yeah.
so, but seeing this as a competition is you're gonna lose.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. Next question is New Yorkers are too focused on their careers to, settle down.
I mean, people are here to achieve a level of success, and it costs a lot of money to live here, so you have to be working hard.
Hmm.
Are they working too hard to settle down? I guess what does it mean to be solely focused on not settling down? Let's say you're a person who wants to find a relationship and you work really hard.
Hmm.
Well, then you're going to need to find somebody who is okay with that and supportive of it and really, really
Okay.
admires you
Do
for
you
it.
find that? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, let's say you're someone who's relationship oriented and you are dating someone who is saying to you, that is not what I'm looking for right now.
Hmm.
They are telling you the truth. So
Yeah.
you're not going to go in
Yeah.
there and like change their mind. I mean, look, it happens, but I would say by and
Yeah.
large, if someone is like, this is not what I want right now, that's a real thing. That's true.
Hmm.
And does that happen a lot in New York City? Yeah. But there are also people
Hmm.
getting engaged every day here. So again,
Hmm.
the statistics are not that important. Like, if it's going to happen to you, it's 100%. If it's not happening, it's zero. Like, that's all you have to worry about.
Well said. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. The last question is true or false? Dating people in other boroughs is considered long distance in New York.
Oh my God. I'm bad with that. I think good logistics are so important in the city. But look, I guess love conquers all, right? If someone is
Right.
really great, you'll make the effort. People's schedules are different.
Hmm.
There are many ways to stay in touch. But yeah, for me, that's a deal breaker. But for other people, it's fine. It
So
doesn't
that's a
matter.
truth, like in a sense, just depending case by case.
Yeah, for me, it's true. For my friend, it's not true. It's false. That
Okay.
just depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so just to define again, boroughs and
Mhm.
long distance, it's like, there's Manhattan borough, then there's Brooklyn, there's Queens, there's Staten Island, the Bronx. What am I missing? I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
And so generally if you're in Manhattan, you want to stay within Manhattan and date someone in Manhattan. I mean, Manhattan itself is a 14-mile stretch. So then if you're going, so you see the logistics here, but I mean, I, as someone coming from California and who if I'm late dating long distance, it's like I literally have to drive in my car to get somewhere, right? And that means my hands are not free. I'm not able to drink. I'm not able to do much. Like I find it so much more of an easier thing to do in New York than anywhere else in the world, and not the world, but the U.S. Is would that not? Would you not agree with that?
It's about flow actually.
Hmm.
So if you're good, like if my radius is 1 mile and I'm meeting people that I like, then I'm good.
Right.
If my radius is 1 mile and I'm going on one date a year, then I gotta open it up.
There we go. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just depends. But
Uh-huh.
look, like I've got 2 kids and work, so for me to carve out 45 minutes just to get somewhere,
Mhm.
like that person, it just puts a lot of pressure on what that date has to be.
Yes.
But again, like this is really particular to me.
Mhm.
I have, like, just for the record, I have dated people that live far away, so
Mhm.
it's not that, it's not that whatever. I have anything against like $30 Uber Brooklyn, but
Right.
yeah, it's really personal.
There you go. Again, all case due to, just logistics,
Yeah.
particularly to New York, guys. All right. Well, thank you for sharing all that other knowledge with us, Grace. Now, I know it is February, the month of love, and I'd kind of love to discuss some Valentine's Day things and how Valentine's is in New York. So, are you down for that?
Yeah, definitely. Valentine's Day is a celebration of love
Mhm.
and I love love, so let's do it.
Yes, we love love. Love is good. All right. So I'm gonna. The first question is, what's New York like on Valentine's Day? Just an overall general scope and energy of it.
New York is an intense place for any holiday, and Valentine's Day is
Mm,
absolutely no different. I mean, I was walking by a restaurant next to my apartment, and it's decked out
mhm.
with Valentine's Day lights, which I didn't know they had. And
Okay. Are they hearts?
they were arranged in a
Okay.
heart-shaped fashion, but I would not be surprised if there was many options on Amazon for heart-shaped anything
Right.
this time of year. And I think it's intense, and people are very aware of, Valentine's Day with the specials, and you and your girlfriends might be talking about either what you're gonna do, what you expect, how big the bouquet should be, and yeah, so love is definitely in the air. There's definitely a little bit of anxiety and anticipation amongst single people. I think it's one
Mhm,
of those holidays, maybe even worse than, say, New Year's Eve.
mhm,
Um, that sometimes those events can be difficult. So on both sides, I think for couples, there's probably a lot of pressure too for the guy for the most part to come up with an amazing plan.
mhm.
Yeah, so I think that's the New York V-Day for you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, definitely sounds like a lot going on, maybe a lot of pressure. Do you feel maybe, Valentine's Day in general and more so in New York is just over glamorized?
I mean, ultimately, I don't think anyone is celebrating. I don't even know the origin, Saint Valentine.
Mhm.
I think, without sounding like a hater or whatever, I mean, it is kind of a made up holiday.
Mhm.
And that's cool. I mean, I remember celebrating Valentine's Day in grade school
Mhm.
with your shoebox and a little
Cards.
slot carved out. Yeah, the
Mhm.
candy hearts and stuff. So it's totally fun, and there are a lot of nice memories rooted in Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a little contrived, if I'm gonna be totally
Mhm.
honest about it.
Yeah, no, agreed, and I definitely like the childhood memories of the cards and passing them around. That was cool. Okay, so question number 2, Grace. If someone is single out in the dating scene in New York City, how can one possibly get a Valentine's Day, schedule their date for Valentine's? Just any tips and tricks on that end?
Yes. So you can scheme your way into a Valentine's Day date. No, I don't mean to use the word scheme. So
Yeah.
if you're on the dating apps, I think, Valentine's Day this day falls on a Friday.
Mhm.
So start chatting with someone that you think is cute or you're interested in, maybe on that Sunday.
Mhm.
And you can kinda tee it up for the Friday by asking, maybe perhaps not alluding to Valentine's Day, so there's a little bit of a, "Oh, what are you doing Friday?" And then, "Oh,
Mhm.
it turns out it's Valentine's Day, what a surprise."
Yeah.
I've done that once, and, once it was set up, he said, "Oh, I didn't realize it was Valentine's Day,"
Mm.
to which I replied, "Well, it's too late. You
Yeah,
already promised to take me out." So
right. I mean,
so
I'm
there you
sure he
are.
was happy. I'm sure he knew it, and he
He's
was just
thrilled. He was so happy.
yeah. I love that. Okay. So, I mean, you can tee it up as you mentioned, just open a conversation. Um, okay. So, since you are literally the definition of a good first date, what would you say a good first date of on Valentine's Day is?
Well, it depends on your relationship status. So
Mhm,
let's say it's a first date. I always think first dates are kind of like flirty first meetings.
mhm,
And usually I recommend that first date is at a place that you feel comfortable at. Usually something that falls before your evening plans, just in case it doesn't work out,
mhm,
and I usually recommend that first date is, 2 drink max, just to give yourself an idea of the person and then a chance to really step away and see what the follow-up is like between the 2 of you.
mhm,
So yeah, I don't know if the first date, scenario changes so much with Valentine's Day, but
mhm.
perhaps it's more celebratory,
Mhm.
and it's kinda nice to have that to look forward to, even if it isn't, an established relationship or, a 5th date or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So would you like recommend making it like a shorter day, just a informal date? You know, just again, just drinks and getting to know them and goodbye. Like, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to figure out more.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, it's a first date, so some of my guidelines are pretty much the same whether it's Valentine's Day or not.
Hmm.
Um, a first date should be something that you look forward to, but isn't gonna totally screw up your schedule because sometimes they don't go well, and by not well, I mean there's not that romantic connection or
Mm-hmm.
or chemistry or spark. So this is sort of about self-preservation and especially online dating when you really put yourself out for a lot of these first dates and it gets exhausting. And the idea around my recommendations is really just to give yourself a chance to meet someone without it making you feel bad. Because every time we go on a first date and it doesn't work out, but we really put ourselves out for it, or we spend 4 hours and never hear from the other person again,
Hmm.
it takes a little bit out of a person.
Yeah.
And, we want to avoid a hardened heart in all of this.
Of course, I agree with that. And so, with that noted, if you do go on a date on Valentine's Day and it's fairly new, or say it is a first date, there shouldn't be that much expectations, right? Like you mentioned earlier, the big bouquet of roses and so on and all these things.
High expectations, low bar. Wait, high bar, low expectations.
Okay.
If I walk into a date and, it's just not there, it's not gonna be there, I still wanna have a good conversation and learn about them, and really a lot of my relationships have stemmed from meeting guys that maybe didn't work out, but life can be long, and I think every connection happens for a reason. So the
Mhm.
person across from you is not a conduit to marriage. The person across from you is a human being, and
Mhm.
you have an opportunity to meet somebody new. So I always say just be open and make the most of it.
Right. And just either they're temporarily playing a part in, the movie of your life, or they could be playing a permanent part in it. So, I mean, just take it for that and, absorb all you can. It's a learning experience, whether it goes good or not.
Yes, and you might not even say it's a learning experience. It's human connection. It is a relationship. You have
Mhm.
formed a relationship with this person by agreeing to meet with them,
Mhm.
and
I like that.
we're all about connections, and so really if both people could in every case make an effort to make each other feel comfortable and good and listened to and understood, then what could be nicer? I think online dating is definitely the only technology that we use today to bring two people together in person,
Mhm.
and that's great. And I guess the caveat to this is part of setting up a good first date is really knowing how to communicate
Mm.
before the date so that you have something in common, so the person is on the same page in terms of expectations. And I do a lot of work with clients to make sure that the texting they do prior to the date is useful. It
Mhm.
serves a purpose. It's not just to, I don't know, exchange pleasantries and gun for the date. You don't want to gun for the date unless there's something there. And
Mhm.
that's what texting is all about.
Love it. Okay. Overall, just spread good energy and love,
Totally.
that's yeah. Okay. So, if you don't have a date, if you are single, which is 200% okay, there's a made up expression in mainstream media called Galentine's Day, where you and your girlfriends go out and hang out. Do you have any recommendations on that? Do you even advise something like that? What's your perspective?
There is no reason to ever feel embarrassed or sheepish or sad about being single. I mean, we do
Mhm.
feel sad sometimes, and
Right.
Valentine's Day is no exception, but it's harder. And bottom line is do what makes you feel good, and maybe being surrounded by your friends, having fun. That sounds
Mhm.
pretty awesome. So why not? If you feel like hiding your head under a pillow and eating chocolate, then do that.
Yeah.
There's no right way to celebrate this holiday in particular. And do remember that it again, I don't want to be a naysayer, but do remember it's kind of a made up holiday. So
Mhm. Mhm.
if you're not feeling it, if you're not celebrating it, that's okay. People all over the world don't celebrate Valentine's Day. And
Mhm.
the other way to think about it is about love and it's about affection. So you can call your mom or pet your dog. I don't know. Gee,
Mhm.
just you can spread the word yourself. You don't just have to be waiting for somebody to shower you with love.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, perfect. Now, I think I may have asked all the questions I have on here, Grace. Am I leaving anything out?
Well,
I mean
I think you're asking the questions that are core to how do we navigate being single in a world that expects us to be coupled?
Mhm. Mhm.
And what is the narrative around being single? And right now the narrative around being single is you're on your way to finding somebody and you'll only be a fulfilled, complete person until you find your partner. And I disagree with that. I think
Mhm.
that it's important for single people to really understand what it means to be single, to take advantage of the choice and the freedom that we have. And a lot of the work I do with clients is really helping them to explore and to make the most out of being single and to make the most out of dating. And finding somebody that you love is so great. It's such a great feeling and it's important. And so yeah, just I guess what I'm saying is if Valentine's Day is getting you down, that's totally normal. I get down sometimes too, but it's not the end of the world, and get through it and celebrate it however makes you feel best.
Yeah, and stay happy because you're only a good first date away to, whether it's on Valentine's Day.
Yes, all it takes all it takes is a good first date to bounce back, 100%.
So, Grace, thank you for all this insight. I guess one of my last questions is what advice do you give to someone who is new to the city, just in general, and then dating related?
New York City is a place that you come to experience something different. It may not be for your whole life. It may usually is a very specific and special part of your life, and I would encourage anyone new to really embrace it and to be open to meeting lots of different types of people, to trying new things. There will never be another place that has so much to offer, and it can be a really frustrating place to live too, and so just to, try not to let it get you down and to find your people, to find your community. So I think that's the challenge, and also really just to if you're here to make it work for your career, just do it, don't just really go for it. Um, and in terms of dating, let's say someone is new to New York and they wanna date, I would say work with us. Like, if you're gonna do it right. Have a really great profile, be selective about who you date, figure out how to do it so that you're not here banging your head against a wall, month after month without really knowing what's happening. And it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot to take on. So let us help you do it right.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So please, Grace, tell everyone where they can connect with you and, get your help and also follow you on social and all that good stuff.
I love talking about dating regardless of whether you are interested in working with a dating coach. All
Mhm.
of my first calls are totally free, and it's really anyone's opportunity to just ask for my advice. So I really welcome that.
Mhm.
You can find me on A Good First Date. It's the web address, it's my social, and you can contact me and schedule a consultation through that. So definitely, if you want me to decipher a text message or to get some advice on how to get back out there, then reach out, let's chat. I really love hearing people's stories, and I think that I can help. Y'all can benefit from a lot of mistakes that I've made.
Love that. You made it so easy for people to reach out to you, not the mistakes, you've made, but how you can help them. I love that. All right, guys. So you know where to find Grace. She is so much fun and approachable. Thank you so much for your time and knowledge, Grace. We will talk soon.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.